So how does Bhakti, this practice of Bhakti, integrate with 4DAP practices? So we've talked a lot about the sitting practices, the breath work, the Kriya Yoga, bringing in the prana into the nervous system, allowing it to purify the distortions and open the nervous system so that we can increase our capacity for divine experience, right? In addition to that, as I've said before, we should be and must be meeting our life circumstances with that state of consciousness. I mean, that's ultimately how it happens, right? That's how the rubber really meets the road. You can do all the sitting practices you want, but if you show up the same person you were yesterday in your life, unchanged and unaffected, still being selfish, still being prideful, still being greedy, then your nervous system won't expand, right? You won't be integrating a fourth density level of consciousness until you start applying it. And the applying of it is, sort of the battleground of spiritual progress, that we have to meet those shadows that are in our life, those triggers, those challenges with an outpouring of love. We have to become completely convinced, 110% convinced, that love is always the right answer to every experience we have. Some life challenge happens. I don't know how to handle this. Default love. Just love it. Just accept it. Just open your heart to it. Be grateful for it, right? All of those things are ways we can start applying devotion. So what is Bhakti in essence? We could say that the rising desire for divine experience is Bhakti. We can also say that Bhakti is a product of our desire for God combined with the purification that's going on. Because we can try to desire God as much as we want, but if we still have tons of blockages in us, it's going to be really hard to experience God, right? We have so many obstructions in the way. So both together, right? Meditation practices, shadow work, spiritual balancing, and during our day, taking every opportunity we have to turn up this heat within the system, to love God, to want God, to be devoted to God. That's the most powerful spiritual practice there is. And that's what ultimately awakens Kundalini, right? Shakti will wake up to the vibration of love when that current is flowing through you, but you've got to create it, right? Think about like a pot of boiling water. How do we get water to boil? Well, we have to keep consistently turning the heat up, right? And we could say that we turn the heat up in the mind by being loving, by loving everything, opening the heart, feeling gratitude, all these things we've talked about. Eventually, doing this every day as often as possible, gratitude, love, surrender, openness, connection. Eventually, this starts to lead to a bubbling of Bhakti within us, meaning we start to have these unplanned experiences of bliss just rising up within us, just little moments of connection. Just looking at a tree can do it at some point. Like any stimulus in the environment can spark an outpouring of divine love within you when you turn up the heat enough through this practice of daily devotion. It becomes less and less of an effort, right? And more of just a default state. Sort of like, when you truly fall in love with something, like if you are, a figure skater, some random example. If you're a figure skater and you just love figure skating, you can't wait to hit the ice. You can't wait to try the next move, to work on your routine. It's all you think about. Like, how much effort does it take for you to get up and practice in the morning? None, right? Negative effort. It's like you're being propelled by some powerful force within you. What is that force? It's Bhakti. It's your Bhakti for ice skating, right? Figure skating. It could be anything: art, painting, music, dancing. We all have Bhakti for something. We call this the Ishta in Bhakti. Ishta means like your ideal, your highest ideal. Like maybe it's Christ, maybe it's Buddha, something that when you think about it, it sparks an experience of love in you, of devotion, of outpouring within you. And it could be different for everybody, right? It could be a guru, a master you've sat under. It could be a person you love. It could be your child. Anything that sparks love within you is the divine in you, right? Because God is love. So bhakti is about, sort of choosing, what is my Ishta? What is my highest ideal to achieve in this life? Do I want to be like a walking experience of the Christ? If I want to just emulate Christ in everything, then Christ is my Ishta. And I want to meditate on Christ all day long. I want to sacrifice and devote all my actions to Christ. Meaning when I'm doing work, I'm doing it for you, Christ. I'm eating this food so that you can taste it, Christ. This is the mentality of a bhakti. So Bhakti Yoga is the most powerful practice of all, because someone who is completely lost in this kind of devotion to God attains the highest state of yoga automatically. No sitting practice even needed, right? And of course, it's rare that someone achieves that level of devotion to God, because most people just don't think about living life that way. But I promise you that there is no greater kind of joy in this life than just living to be of service to God, of service to others. There isn't something comparable to it. And the only thing that stands in our way of realizing it is ego, right? The selfish voice that wants us to live for me and look out for number one, and other people are inconveniencing me, and all these kinds of thoughts. That's what blocks us from experiencing bhakti. It would be our natural state without the ego, right? So here's what we do, is that we just strive to fall more in love with God each day. Can I become a little more convinced today that God is love? I like to say, try and imagine what the most wonderful, incredible, inexpressibly beautiful, devastatingly blissful thing that could ever exist. What would that thing be? What would that be like? And then know that that thing does exist. Absolutely, right? And it's God. God is the most wonderful thing that could possibly exist. You can't even come close to fathoming how wonderful God is. Don't even try to do it. Just trust it, know that it's true, and then ask for it to be shown to you. Open your heart and say, please reveal yourself to me. You are all that I want. Nothing in this life can satisfy me. These are very bhakti-esque prayers and devotions that, man, I'm telling you what, the universe responds to those things. When your heart cries out for God like that, the universe cannot resist it, right? You're like a fragrant rose that's just blossoming and opening, and all those bumblebees have to smell that fragrance and come over and pollinate you. The universe will pollinate you with the nectar of bhakti if your heart's crying out for it. Whether or not you feel it right now doesn't matter. That's not what the universe waits for, right? The feeling is the effect, not the cause. The cause is desire. How much do I desire to experience love? How much do I desire to become love, to be a conduit for divine experience in this world, in this life? That is the prayer of a bhakti. So the key to accessing this kind of bliss and bhakti is to just strive to achieve states of genuine positive feelings towards creation each day, opening the heart in gratitude, right? Feeling thankful for whatever is arising in this moment, accepting and loving somebody as they are, no matter what distortions may be there. Just striving to see oneness in everything. These are different ways that we can cultivate love within ourselves. And man, the level of ecstatic conductivity you'll start to feel when bhakti starts welling up within you during your sitting practice will shock you. It truly will. And then in your deep meditation, again, you'll just find that as you get still, as the mind gets quiet, bhakti just bubbles up, and you start to encounter God in ways that are totally not explainable. Realizations, understandings of the divine nature that are absolutely impossible to put to words. You wouldn't even try to, right? But those realizations are just downloading and dropping within you because you're being pollinated, right? The universe can't resist you any longer. And that's what fourth density consciousness is. It is the consciousness of love and oneness. And that's ultimately what we're trying to facilitate in 4DAP and all of these practices, is the consciousness, the awareness of love. And once you start to cultivate bhakti, it begins to lead to a phenomenon that I like to call heart field expansion, which is again, an effect of truly devoted bhakti practice. And this is where and I'm sure many of you have experienced this, but this happens when you feel, it happens as a kind of heart opening, we can say, that with consistent practice of devotion and worship to the divine every day, the frequency of the heart will elevate at a certain point. And I'm not really exactly sure how to put this in words, but it will start to eradicate obstructions in the mind that were standing in the way of love. And suddenly you feel like you're going through some kind of beautiful emotional crisis. I don't know if that's the best way to put it, but what I mean is, like, your heart feels so open. You wake up in the morning in some kind of rapture and you can't explain why. You're like, whoa, this is something else, man. And you just look at a bird and tears come to your eyes. It's like you're on MDMA or something, right? Everything is inspiring this incredible outpouring of love. You see the perfection in all of creation. You look at another person and all you see is this singularity of divine expression in front of you. You know, the Christ, as the Course says, and it brings you to tears again. Like, you have to experience these states to even really understand what I'm talking about. But I'm sure many of you have, right? And this is a period of heart field expansion. It's sort of like when I explained my sort of 2-week enlightenment experience I had at 27, where something in my mind just broke down, some kind of obstruction that was in the mind broke down, and pure emptiness took its place for 2 weeks. Just pure Buddhahood was there. And then slowly the ego came back online. That's what happens in a heart field expansion. Your practice of devotion and who knows what else just causes something to rupture in the heart. Some obstruction, some blockage is eradicated suddenly. And the level your vibration increases is very noticeable and dramatic. And then after, sometimes it lasts for a week, sometimes just one day. But anytime you enter a state like that, where you're like, this is very much an altered state. Like, I feel like I'm on some kind of drug or something, but I'm not. I'm just high on my own supply. You know that you're in a period of heart field expansion, right? This can happen in the mind just like it can happen in the heart. Sometimes we have moments of the expansion of our awareness and everything goes silent, maybe for a few hours, and we're just stunned at the infinity all around us. We can't even think a word about it. You know, that would be like an awareness expansion. The heart can do that too. And bhakti causes the heart to do that. After a certain period of time, that expansion is integrated, and maybe the ego takes a little bit of its territory back once it, wakes up from its coma of being knocked out by bhakti. It comes back and it tries to take some ground back, and it may do that temporarily. But once you expand, you never truly retract again. Awareness will claim that territory, right? Even if it seems to shrink a little bit after that, it will return to that state. It's just a matter of time. And you can accelerate the time it takes to get back to that level of heart field expansion by continuing to practice bhakti. Just keep hammering that ego with love every day. And it has no option. It doesn't have any ability to fight divine energy. It can just delay the inevitable. The ego can never win, right? It's just a temporary obstruction that is put in place in third density to be a catalyst for our expansion, but it's designed to be transcended. So it's on a countdown, whether it knows it or not, right? So you never have to worry that, oh, I was in this great, amazing, blissful state of consciousness for a week, and then, now I'm back in suffering again. Like, you should absolutely expect that to happen, right? And maybe it even triggers a die-off of something, meaning you start experiencing the very opposite of some traumas come up and the ego's trying to get you to relive a past identity or whatever. That's all to be expected. This is what ego does to try and fight, to claim its territory back. And so again, all we have to do is love it, right? It's the easiest equation ever. As Ra says, love is the strongest magic in the universe. One who is equipped with love needs no other weapon in their arsenal.